more than 100 years now, for most people in India, movies are the closest thing that they can imagine to a dream. And sitting inside a movie theatre in its amniotic darkness is almost like being dreamers in the womb. This is what I've learned from talking to film critic Anupama Chopra, who's joining us today to talk about what it means to be a woman in an industry made of dreams. Dreams that are mostly male-dominated. Thank you, Anupama, so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Meghna.
Now, let me begin by asking, you're part of Bollywood that has often been described as an industry that's nebulous, it's fickle, it's misogynistic, but you found your space in that. And it's very interesting because this is also an industry that's so important to the culture and the economy of India.
Yeah.
How have you found your place in this kind of almost schizophrenic industry?
Honestly, I've seen a lot of change over the 20 years that I've been a film journalist, and I can only say that it's a far, far better place that we are in today than when I first began. Though I've never personally experienced any sort of any kind of unpleasant behavior or any kind of politics related to the fact that I'm a woman. Okay. But I've seen how shut out women were from the creative side of it. I mean, I've been on sets where literally there were 4 women in a 200 people unit. And I remember the first time when I noticed that there were more women on a set, which was Josh, Mansoor Khan's film, which was late 90s. And that's the first time I saw female ADs. Okay. I was like, wow, you've got women ADs. And he said, yeah, but they're so much more efficient.
That's a good thing.
Honestly, I can't tell you that I've followed some path or I've done something. I've just worked my butt off.
Yeah, worker ant, right?
Yeah, I'm a worker ant. That's it. I'm a workaholic. Yeah. And I just keep working, and I don't really have the time or the energy to think too much about other stuff.
Yeah. But when you joined the industry, in the 80s, early 90s, that time, like you said, it was very different. And you said your own mom was embarrassed to talk about the fact that you were a film critic.
I wasn't a film critic. I was a film journalist. I didn't begin as a film critic. I started out just in Movie Magazine, which has since shut down, not because of me. I started out just as a journalist, and at that time, and I know it's very hard to think about it now, it's very hard to imagine now because film is so much a part of our culture and our media space. But at that time, it wasn't. In fact, there were 3 or 4 magazines, Filmfare, Stardust, Movie. I can't remember if Star and Style still existed or it had shut down. Okay. And there were literally a handful of us journalists, literally 15 people who went to studios, talked to stars, wrote about it. And it wasn't looked as, films themselves were seen as very infra-dig, very, people like us, middle-class, English-speaking, educated people did not say, oh, we love Hindi movies. No, we didn't love Hindi movies. We watched Hollywood films, which are all 1 year old, because nothing came. We went to Eros and Sterling, and I was very much a South Bombay kid. Yeah. I went to St. Xavier's College. That environment, you didn't say, oh, I love Hindi movies.
You did. We got dead.
And my mother, who was part of the industry in the way that she, Kamna Chandra, she wrote Prem Rog for Raj Kapoor. She wrote Chandni for Yash Chopra. And she loved films and she loved the film industry. But the idea that her daughter would go and report on these people who were also seen as sort of unsavory. The only thing that you heard about was who was having affairs with who. There was no talk about cinema as a medium.
Or substance.
Kuch nahi. There was just ki ye dekho, iski friend wo hai. It was the most sort of
the underbelly of society.
And it was seen as, okay, they're those people, and we don't really mix with those people. I actually just started as a lark. I didn't know anything about films or the film industry. It was just I finished college and I didn't know what I was doing, and somebody said, why don't you join Movie? And I said yes, and I got completely seduced by it, completely. By the film industry, not even Hindi movies, by the film industry. It was this chaotic, gaudy circus.
I like that chaotic body.
It was mad. It was just mad, you know. And again, you can't even imagine now. But we would literally just go. There were no cell phones. We would just go from one set to the other. Nobody stopped us. There were no security people. You know, I mean, I remember like just sitting at Dimple's house having chai. It was like a really informal. Not intimate relationship, but it was very informal. It was very kind of casual. It was very casual, you know, and I realized that this is what I want to do, but I don't want to write about who's having affairs with who.
Yeah.
I want to write about cinema. I want to write about directors. I want to write about personalities. I want to write those things. And that's why I then left and went abroad and worked there and studied and then came back to do the same thing.
So, but you know what amazes me is that all the three women in your family, your mother, Kamna Chandra, she's such a gifted scriptwriter. Tanuja Chandra, your sister, was one of the first few female directors in Bollywood, and you, of course. How have all three of you managed to carve out a niche for yourself?
You know, again, I think by not thinking too much about it. I think it was just that we. You know, my mother was doing plays, you know, and she did theatre, she did radio, she did a bit of television, and she just felt like she one day picked up the phone and called RK Studios.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story that would never happen today.
No.
You know, it wouldn't. And Raji called her and said, tell me your story, and that was that. So I think, and you know, same for Tanu. She went, both of us lived abroad. You know, she did a master's in filmmaking, I did a master's in journalism. And I don't think we ever sat down to say, okay, this is very difficult. It is a male-dominated world. What are we going to do? You just do it.
But you know what they say about cinema is that it shapes culture, and culture also shapes cinema in many ways. So like you mentioned, you know, in the late 90s, you suddenly started seeing a lot more ADs on the sets. Now we're seeing such transformation. I mean, the biggest blockbusters are being led, you know, solo women leads, and it's amazing to see Kangana or NH10 or Queen do so well. So where do you think this inflection point came about? Do you think it was in the late 90s, like you mentioned, or is society changing cinema? Is the cinema
it definitely
changing society?
wasn't late 90s.
Okay.
Through the 90s, you know, you had very strong actresses. You had Sridevi, then you had Madhuri Dixit, then you know, you had somebody like a Kajol. They did very strong roles. They had a very strong presence, but it was very much about men. Very much, and it still is. It still is. But the truth is that I would say the Dirty Picture was the tipping point, because that made so much money. So you have to understand, everything in Bollywood finally is about the bottom line.
Yeah, it's all a business.
It's
right?
a business. See, it's a mix of art and money, but if you don't make money, if your film loses money, you can't go out and ask for more money. And Farah Khan had once told me that if your film's a hit, they don't care whether you're a man, woman, or a dog behind the camera. And it's true, they don't. I mean, the only god that's worshipped here is the box office.
Right.
So when a film like The Dirty Picture can, you know, make the kind of money it did, then suddenly 5 more people wake up and say, my God, this is possible. And then you have Queen, then you have Tanu Weds Manu Returns, then you have NH10, you know, so it's successive successes. And also you have a generation of women who I think are now no longer willing to just stay quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think the success is giving them the courage to say, you know, I need more than this.
Yeah, it's my time in the sun almost.
It
right?
is, it is. I mean, you know, I've done several interviews over the last 2 years with several actresses. And, you know, Anushka Sharma talked about how it's not a question of how much money you need. It's a question of what the value they ascribe to you is. And, you know, it's very important. So I totally get that no woman right now opens a film like Salman Khan does. And unless that happens, you will not make the money that Salman Khan will make, and that's fine, that's fair. That's what he brings to the table. But you can't when there are two newcomers, which is what Anushka told me in her interview, that there would be two newcomers and still the girl will get paid less than the boy.
Exactly, and that's become a big talking point, right? Like wage parity.
Absolutely. I mean, I just interviewed Sonakshi and I said, what's the one thing you would say a bus to? And she said the wage disparity. Gender sensitivity is another thing. And that's, again, I think, everybody is very quick to blame Hindi films. Oh, item songs are causing rape.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, really?
It's again about how much does cinema actually influence culture, to that extent.
How much? Then we would also have a great Hindu-Muslim unity. We would, why hasn't that happened? We would have families and everybody be singing in Sarson Ke Khet in Punjab. We're not. So let's not ascribe blame where there is, that cinema comes out of a society.
Yeah.
You've conditioned men to think a certain way. There is that amount of illiteracy in this country. It's all a very complex grid of conditions that then lead up to film directors or choreographers or viewers who will consume कि मैं chicken की टंगड़ी हूँ मुझे बोतल के साथ ले लो or whatever that song was.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not that these guys live in a vacuum and they're creating in a vacuum. No, this is the same society. They're all part of it,
So I'm going to come to this very quick round called the pop quiz, where you're supposed to answer like one word or one sentence or yes or no, but it's great one.
It's I'm going to get into trouble now.
No, they're very sweet questions, I think. How long will it take for the industry to equalize towards women?
Oh, very long. Very long, decades, because it's going to be when the society is equalized towards women. And I mean, what are you going to tell me? India is going to be a super equal society in 10 years? No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Is there an onus on female directors to bring in a feminist angle to their films?
I'm sure they feel the pressure, and I've talked to Zoya and Farah about this. Both of them are two of the most successful directors here, but they don't make female-centric movies necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think they feel the pressure, but that's not what speaks to them. And I think we need to stop this qualification of it's a female director. It's a director, and let him or her tell the story that speaks to them.
There are three great writers in your family: your mom, your sister, and of course, one of my favorite novelists, Vikram Chandra. He's so brilliant. Whose writing do you personally most enjoy?
At the risk of offending everyone in the family, I would have to say it's Vikram. I just think he's the best among us.
So Tanuja, Vikram and you, three brilliant siblings, all so successful, so talented. I have to ask you this, what did your mother feed you guys?
I asked that question of the Hemsworth brothers, man. I mean, how gorgeous are those two?
Really, that's true.
I'm just like, inki maa ne kaun si chakki ki aata khilaya? Listen, I tell you what my parents really did, which I think was wonderful, which was never ever differentiate. I mean, I don't ever remember, though Vikram went to a boarding school and I went much later, but I don't remember ever them saying that you can't do this because you're a girl, like never.
Now, being married to the mob, is it a boon or a bane?
Yeah,
you're like at the epicenter, surrounded by.
I am married to the mob, I will admit. Again, honestly, the truth is because I keep the two things so separate. I don't work with Vinod at all. I barely know what's going on at Vinod Chopra Films. So when people say, I'm sending you a script, I'm like, please don't. I have nothing to do with that. I keep those two parts of my lives very, very separate.
But if you hadn't been a film critic, what would you have been?
A film journalist. I don't know anything else. I've never ever done anything else.
Would you like your children to join the industry?
At this point, they have no interest at all. My son is an aspiring cricketer, and my daughter is writing her first novel, and so neither one. I would never want or not want. What my parents did for me, I will do for them, and I will support them in whatever dreams they have.
Nice. And my last question now: who gets the best deal in Bollywood? The actor, the writer, the critic, or the director?
Oh, the actor, of course. Of course, this is completely run around stars, not actors, stars.
Yeah, stars.
There's a difference. There's a difference. It is a completely star-run, star-driven, star-led industry.
Interesting. So thank you so much, Anupama, for joining us. I guess you've taught us
Thank
that
you.
the things that you dislike can be cerebral, but the things that you truly love are, I guess, emotive and amorphous in many ways.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us here today. It was lovely talking to you as always.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Great.